In a village in Bohol, there lived two mystical brothers named Rudius and Paul. Growing up, they lived the life of farmers and cultivators. Rudius had the power of rain, and this allowed him to hydrate the land at will. His brother Paul had the power of the sun, which he used to give sunlight to growing crops. They lived according to one code that their father bestowed upon them. Both of your blood flows through the land. Only together can you make the trees prosper and the flowers to bloom. During their childhood, they were able to provide the villagers with luscious greenery that surrounded the giant hill in the middle of the village, and abundant crops and vegetables by combining their powers. Villagers loved the two brothers, providing them dishes and gifts that they made using the harvests. The village chief even mentioned how he might offer his one and only daughter heiress to the brother that falls in love with her as gratitude. Indeed, the brothers were loved during their youth. As they grew older, however, they caught on to the gossip that was spreading around town. The villagers often compared and wagered who of the two brothers would be better suited for the village chief's daughter. Rudius laughed at the idea of them fighting over women and seeked his brother Paul to discuss the preposterous rumor. "Nothing could ever sever the bond between us, brother," Rudius exclaimed. The brothers observed harmony while serving the village, until the day the village chief's daughter heiress visited them. She was curious about the two as she had never actually seen them in person. The brothers were finishing up the day. Paul was resting and Rudius was hydrating the rest of the crops. Paul noticed heiress and shouted at Rudius, calling for him. "Rudius! Seems like someone from the village is coming out," he muttered before stopping abruptly.
He was astonished at Heiress' bright smile as she looked at him with curious eyes. "Are you, by any chance, Paul?" she asked him. Paul nodded while blushing intensely. Rudius heard Paul's call earlier and came over. Just like his brother, he was in awe at the chief's daughter's beauty. Heiress asked for a demonstration of their crops' growing season. The two brothers diligently show her how their powers work. She was bewildered and amazed. Such displays of power and skill prompted her to request favors from the brothers. The two proceeded to grant her requests. The two brothers fell in love that day. Unbeknownst to them, their paths have started to slowly diverge. The more favors that Heiress asked, the more competitive and meticulous they became at their work. Conflict rose between the two. Rudy started berating his brother for overdrying the crops, and Paul complained whenever Rudius added too much water. Unbeknownst to them, they subconsciously started sabotaging each other until they kept failing and failing at their task. The fights continued until Heiress introduced her most demanding request yet: to turn the big hill near the village into her personal garden that can grow crops instantly at will. The brothers have never accomplished such a feat. They promptly accepted this challenge and began cultivating the hills in an attempt to grow crops as fast as possible. Rudius wanted to prove himself worthy to be Heiress' lover, and so he decided to attempt to cultivate the hills on his own. He watered and hydrated all of the dry parts of the hill. Paul did the same and provided sunlight to damp and overly watered areas. Blinded by their desire to win Ares' heart, they failed to realize two important things with their powers. Plants cannot grow at will as none of their powers can do that, and that they needed each other in order to fertilize and nourish their crops.
The consequences of their divergence started to show up as the hill they're working on isn't improving. They eventually crossed paths at the peak. Paul berated Rudius for flooding the areas that he dried and started blinding him with the sunlight in a fit of rage. Rudius, unwilling to lose, started bringing down heavy rain upon his brother. The hill they're standing on started to crumble from the powerful elements and shattered into many smaller hills. Ares realized the conflict between the brothers and called for help in a panic. The brothers' fight caused the debris to spread out into numerous massive mounds of dirt and soil. After a while, Ares eventually arrived while accompanied by an unfamiliar man. This man uttered words that would crumble the two brothers' hearts. "Stop destroying my wife's hills." The two brothers heard this, stopped without hesitation. Distraught at the reveal that Ares already had someone, they dropped to the ground in disbelief. "Brother, how far have we fallen?" Rudius muttered in a tired voice. "Deep enough to turn the world around us, gray and fail, father," Paul uttered. The village chief arrived and reprimanded the brothers. "For the havoc that you two have caused, you will be forced to cultivate these hills together in accordance to the weather and the demands of the people." They had no choice but to take responsibility for their actions. The possibility that Ares was already in love with someone never crossed their minds. Their love for Ares blinded them to the point of forgetting the most important love that they possess, their love as brothers. Ever since then, during the rainy season, Paul would provide sunlight to maintain the hill's luscious greenery, and during the dry season, Rudius is tasked to hydrate the hills to keep them alive even if they become brown and dry. This cycle continued for centuries, and presently, the Hill of Bohol became known as the Chocolate Hills of Bohol.